Yeah. That's right. Welcome in, everybody. Fantasy Alarms, Fantasy Baseball Podcast, Caught Stealing. Welcome in. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me, of course, Colby Conway. And at the time of us recording this, it's only one more sleep before opening day of the MLB season. Colby, you got to be super pumped up. I know your Pirates are on the road, but they're in Miami. It's just all sorts of fixing to be a Paul Skeens extravaganza, isn't it?
It's going to be a magical, probably 5 innings or 75 to 80 pitches. Can't imagine they let him go full bore to open it up. But yep, super excited to see Skeens. We got Skeens and Sandy Alcantara going in that game. The over-under of that game is probably 3.5, but who knows what it actually kind of ends up being. But I am excited for opening day for more than just Pittsburgh's Paul Skeens.
You know what? I actually just wrapped up the Fantasy Alarm Show on Sirius XM. Josh Wagner, who's doing the best bets, he actually made that one of his bets as a first 5 under 3.5 runs, Alcantara versus Skeens. The other bet that was actually kind of cool that he was talking about was some sort of DK booster bet. It's you get Paul Skeens, Zach Wheeler, and
Crochet.
Garrett Crochet. Yeah, 20 strikeouts.
Yep.
Is that realm there? And Jim Bowden said the under for exactly what you were kind of talking about. 5 innings, who's doing what in 5 innings? You need each one of those guys to average 7 strikeouts, in that game. And while I could see Skeens striking out 7 or 8 against the Marlins through 5 innings, all of a sudden, Zach Wheeler's got to come up with 7 in a shortened outing, probably. I mean, that's the thing, really, is that what you're kind of expecting? You're just expecting all of these number one aces who are going on opening day to just kind of, shorter outings here, kind of ease them into the season?
I would say for maybe like the more established workhorses, like maybe a Zach Wheeler type, they feel relatively comfortable, maybe pushing him a bit. And by pushing him a bit, I mean, this isn't going to be a situation like where once we get into the dog days of summer, if he's at 92 pitches through 6, they probably send him out to start the 7th. This March, April is not the time that they're doing that. But what could be interesting with a guy like Garrett Crochet, I'm pulling up here because I do think in one of his last 2 spring outings, he's gone 4 innings and 5 1/3. So he might get a fairly decent workload, looking at like up to maybe 80, 85, 90 pitches even. So I think that booster bet on DK, I think it's to plus 100 if I remember seeing that promo right. So I think you're in a pretty good spot. If you get 7 from Crochet, which seems doable against Texas, who knows what Skeens could get to. Wheeler just gives you a strikeout per inning. I think you're there. But other than the more established aces, I would expect teams to be a little bit cautious here in March with their guys.
Yeah, and I kind of look at certain things. A lot of unders are probably going to be in play here. I know that anything can happen, and you get a hot hitter against even a great pitcher, and things can happen. But it is opening day, and so we'll see a little bit of magic. We're going to see a little bit of agony also. That Angels White Sox series. Could you imagine? Like, I don't know if the schedule makers really knew what was going on when they were kind of putting this out. But, technically they've matched up some pretty atrocious teams against each other. Now, granted, Alcantara and Skeens are absolutely phenomenal, but the offense for Pittsburgh and for Miami, that's kind of soft like baby poop. And then you take a look at where else do we have? We have the White Sox going up against the Angels. Those are 2 terrible teams. And the Athletics going up against the Mariners. Like, the funny thing about that one there for me is that, I know the Mariners, they got Edgar Martinez as their hitting coach. This was still a team that struck out like at a ridiculous rate last season, to the point where we were just targeting against them for DFS, just, pounding against them. Granted, it's Luis Severino, not a guy who I want to really put a whole lot of stock into, but like 3 bottom feeding matchups right there, I think.
Well, then you have to offset some of the heavy hitter matchups like Bibee Reagans. We got obviously you said Skeens Alcantara. I mean, Chris Sale, Michael King is good, and Scooble Snell, little southpaw action. Pablo Lopez, Sonny Gray. So they have to balance those out with the Yusei Kikuchi versus Sean Burks and the other ones of the world that we're seeing. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some clunkers I'm very intrigued betting those Mariners A's games to begin the year in terms of unders, first 5 unders, A's team total under, just because, I mean, if the Mariners have anything besides a high strikeout rate on offense, they have a gauntlet of a pitching staff. If they can stay healthy, like I don't know how many games they're going to get to this year where the over under or where the line's over maybe 8.5 runs. Because if their offense doesn't come through, they're not letting up runs. That pitching staff is filthy. So good luck to the A's. It's going to be a very quiet offensive beginning of the year for them.
Definitely is. Are you a big opening day guy? Like, are you like in that realm of like, hey, I might take off work because you used to play, so opening day means a lot to you. I'm sure you've got some killer opening day stories.
Yeah. Nowadays, just basically, I'll have my well, if my employer's listening, it doesn't matter. Have the monitor over here, computer here, over here is the iPad with the game going on with MLB TV. So I got it off to the side. I'm watching it, looking at the matchups that I want, and then I guess opening day is a good way of saying I'm watching baseball and working in between innings.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that realm as well. I mean, have to do the show on Sirius XM, afterwards, or at the tail end of my day. But yeah, I think I'm going to get up bright and early for fantasyalarm.com. Guys, check out everything that we've got going on over there for the start of MLB opening day. I mean, there's just so much going on. First and foremost, if you're watching us here on YouTube, please give us that like, give us that subscribe. You don't want to miss a single show. John and Pemba, James Grande, they already did the MLB opening day DFS show, which you can catch here on our YouTube page. But then if you look at the website tomorrow, John and Pemba did he's got the playbook. I know Joe Galina's updating that closer grid as we speak, where we're seeing a ton of guys who are being knocked down. If you play on Underdog, Prize Picks, or Sleeper, and you do the DFS Pick'em contests, I'm going to be doing all of those. Those articles are going to come out plenty early in the morning. So I'm going to do those. Then I'm going to probably ease into the rest of my day, watch a little bit of opening day. It's been a long time. I was trying to figure out the last time I was at an opening day game. The last time I was at opening day in a major league ballpark was 2001, right? The Yankees had just three-peated for the World Series. They beat the Mets in the 2000 World Series, the big Subway Series. And I ended up at opening day in 2001, which was ridiculous. Like the energy for opening day is just absolutely phenomenal, but it's been way too long since I've been to one.
I have never made an opening day. I'm more of let me just go in the summer when it's 95 degrees and sit there and sweat it out in the stand, have my lager and sweat that lager out half an inning later and do a couple more of those, go get my burger and have another beer and doing that. But I don't know what's fully on the docket this year. I think I'm going to get to a Braves game, get to check out that park, and then who knows from there. But that's on the baseball docket for 2025.
Beautiful. Yeah, I want to try and get to some more games. The only problem is that, it's like I got to go to Giants games now. I can't even go to an A's game. I used to be able to do that for like no money whatsoever. Granted, E. coli Stadium, not the place you wanted to be. They were like, they were serving up. I mean, my wife and I went to an A's Yankees game, right? And like sat down there. It was like the first when we were like, brand new to the West Coast. And I got this what was supposed to be a brat, right? And it was so plain and it was so weird looking. I mean, it was white. It looked like the penis of a beluga whale in like a bun, half the brat size. It was terrible. So going to those games over there, not pleasant, but at least it was a nice cheaper alternative than to go into Giants games. You can't get tickets to a Giants game if they're winning and they're doing well. As soon as they like start to struggle a little bit, then all their fans just don't care anymore. So
beautiful stadium though. Giants, that is.
Gorgeous.
Not Oakland's. I've been to that one. Definitely my least favorite I've ever been to.
Yeah. Nobody liked E. coli Stadium. Yep. So, and I'm not going to Sacramento to go watch them play, some River Cats baseball. With opening day comes a lot of great fun stuff. And one of the most exciting things, obviously, we like to do them over at fantasyalarm.com is make some bold predictions. Now, you and I did we did our share of the bold predictions over at fantasyalarm.com. You've got everything there that you guys could possibly want, ranging from MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, but then, things like this player's going to, have 200 strikeouts for the first time. This player here's going to have 30 stolen bases for the first time. I figure we could slap down a couple of bold predictions here, kind of get everybody set and squared away. I've got yours up. I've got mine up. Again, these are over at fantasyalarm.com. It is a free article, so you can just click on it and check it out. But let's plant our flags. Let's make the statement here on the show. Colby, where do you want to begin? You want to just do the awards right off the bat?
Yeah, we can do the awards. It's funny, you can see of mine when I was like, I think I'm gonna try to be right with this one, to when I'm gonna be like, let's get bold and let's have a little fun here. So I went pretty, what I think, chalk, and I guess I agree with John and Pemba. I don't know if that's good or not, but MVP awards, just give me Bobby Witt Jr. and Ellie De La Cruz. I think they're arguably two of the most exciting players in baseball. They're going to put up stats, and if Ellie can steal as many bases as he does and pushes that home run total up again, playing half his games in Great American Small Park, he has a great chance to win MVP. So Bobby Witt Jr. and Ellie De La Cruz take home the MVPs.
Only 4 of the analysts went away from Bobby Witt Jr. as the MVP for the American League. I am not one of the 4 who went opposite that. I went Bobby Witt. Kyle Tucker's my guy for NL MVP. I mean, I love Ellie De La Cruz. I love everything that he brings to the table. I would just love to see Kyle Tucker in Chicago. Wind's blowing out at Wrigley's going to kind of help pad some stats there for him. But I just think it's a nice move for him, and going to the NL Central. I think it's just going to be a really nice season for Tucker. For MVP, those are my guys. For Cy Young, I went completely different from everybody. I went Cole Reagans in the American League, and I went Dylan Cease in the National League. I was super in on Dylan Cease last season. Then he got hurt. There's an interesting pattern, and I always have to remember to go back to the player. I did this in fantasy football, right? I said, 2 years ago that Jamar Chase was my number 1 overall, and then Joe Burrow got hurt, and Jamar was not the number 1 guy. But I came back to this past year, and I was like, why isn't Jamar Chase still my number 1 guy? There's nothing that's changed that hasn't happened. So I'm doing that. And so I'm going with that knowledge that Dylan Cease, we're going to get the strikeouts. It's a tough field for sure, but I like him as a good quality Cy Young candidate. And Cole Reagans, I love Cole Reagans. I really do. I picked the Kansas City Royals to win the Central Division. Laid that action down at I think it was plus 270 for that to happen. He's a phenomenal pitcher. He's a lefty, and I think now it's like a couple of seasons in, I think he's gonna. When you get to that point, things really start to click for a guy, especially for a southpaw. Reagan's my Cy Young candidate for the AL.
I was between Reagans and Gilbert for AL Cy Young. I end up switching to Logan Gilbert. I don't know how many wins. He's got to get the wins, so his offense has to give him some run support, but he is going to lock it down. And if he gets run support at such a good pitcher's park, he's going to be in a great spot. And then I went chalk with Paul Skeens winning the NL Cy Young. I think I've opined about him enough and solidified my stance on what he could be and will be here in his first full season in the big league. So, yeah, that was not very bold, taking Paul Skeens to win NL Cy Young, but they get bolder as we go.
Listen, a back-to-back, right? Or he was Rookie of the Year last year. So Rookie of the Year into a Cy Young, it's definitely possible.
I should have doubled down and put him as NL MVP. That would have been bold.
Oh, that would have been bold. That would have been bold.
Well, I have edit permissions. So.
I want to know if he's got maybe he gets a little wrapped up in his head. He's a little worried about, that kid that pulled the Paul Skeens card. Maybe they invite him to actually just go and hang out with Livy Dunn, even though he turned that offer down. Right. And then all of a sudden Paul's like, who's in the box with Livy? Yeah.
That if they end up giving that kid a meeting, he or she cannot be there on the day that he pitches. Let it when Bubba Chandler's throwing, or if he ever event's coming up, or if Andrew innings eating Heaney is on the mound, you can let him be up in the press box for that. That's fine.
I like me some Bubba Chandler. We'll talk about that when we start talking about, congratulating all the rookies who made, opening day rosters and players who we expect to see a little later on. But let's talk rookies here. Rookie of the year, and you don't have Bubba Chandler in there. Who do you got?
I don't. AL going Jason Dominguez goes 2020. Should be enough to win the award on the American League side. And then actually if I have this correct, the only player whose name I wrote twice in the bold prediction is Dylan Cruz. You'll see him down at the bottom in my favorite futures bet as well. But he could put up some big numbers. Washington's going to have to manufacture some runs. They are going to let him run wild on the base path. So I like him to accrue a good number of counting stats en route to an NL Rookie of the Year award.
Well, you've got him for NL Rookie of the Year. You've got him for 30-plus stolen bases for the first time. Then you've got him on the best bet there at 30-plus stolen bases at plus 155. You're a big fan here. I knew everybody was going to go Dylan Cruz, just like I knew everybody was going to go for like Bobby Witt. So I decided to go the opposite direction. Not really an opposite direction, but I just took Matt Shaw, third baseman for the Cubs, made the team.
8-hole hitter.
What's that?
The 8-hole hitter.
Yeah. Why not? Right? I mean, I don't love the fact that he hit so far down, but
I thought now that he and Tucker had bad opening series that we have to hate them now. That they can't have a good season. Their season's over.
We're just hating on Cubs now? Is that what it is?
Well, not all Cubs. Not John Birdie. Isn't that how it is? Aren't we supposed to over extrapolate from the first two games that are played 20 hours away from where they're going to play their normal home games? Aren't we supposed to hate on that? And those players can't be good now? Their season's over.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm kind of worried that Mookie Betts has a tapeworm, so I don't think I'm overreacting too much to what's going on. Dude lost like 20 pounds or something like that. So I think
I'm worried. I'm seeing you probably, this doesn't surprise you. I have quite a bit of Houston on my timeline, as you can probably.
Do you? That's so weird.
Which translates over into baseball. And there's a lot of people on there saying that the Astros have already won the Kyle Tucker trade. Already won it.
Oh, because of Cam Smith. I love
Cam Smith. Because all three of the guys they got are, I believe, are all on the big league roster to open camp. So it's all like, yeah, I mean, and Kyle Tucker only had one hit in the Tokyo series. So yeah,
he did only have
Astros
one
won
hit,
the trade.
But he had an RBI that game as well, and he cashed my bet of over 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBI.
I love it
for game 2 there in that series. So, but I'm sticking with Matt Shaw. For the American League, I'm going with Jackson Jobe. It's a little on the chalky side, but I do love what Jackson Jobe brings to the table. I mean, he's a phenomenal pitcher. He's got a good, solid pitch mix. He's got good velocity. He's got great movement on his breaking stuff. He's got good command on his breaking stuff, which, is always, when you're talking about a guy who strikes out a lot of guys, you always start to worry about whether or not his command's going to be there for him. Everything from Jackson Jobe so far points towards him actually doing that.
Yep, and the off speed's good. He can miss bats with that. It just has to be average to slightly better with his heater, and if that's the case, good luck. And AL Central, good division to be a pitcher in.
Great division to be a pitcher in. Great division. All right, so those are our MVP, Cy Youngs, and Rookie of the Year. Now, we're not going to give away the whole farm here. You got to come to the website and look at it and check out our bold predictions. Let's each give like 2 of our favorite, though, that we've gone through down at the bottom here. And, yes, a little bonus coverage here. You already know that Colby likes Dylan Cruz for 30 stolen bases for the first time, and he's the best bet there, favorite futures bet at 30 plus stolen bases. But give me 2 others that you're kind of eyeballing.
I will give you. Actually, I'll take one that you might do. I think Michael Harris has a chance to hit 300 for Atlanta. Should be enough at bats. He's good enough offensive profile. So I like him to hit 300 for the first time in his career. And then we've been pretty optimistic. I'll go Ketel Marte fails to match the hype in 2025.
I like that. All right. Yeah. I mean, dude, everybody loves Ketel Marte. The funny thing about him, and because it's concerned, he's 31, right? This is his age 31 season. I don't see him powering up the way he did last year. I mean, I definitely see that coming down. He doesn't steal enough. He doesn't steal any bases. Forget about stealing enough bases. He doesn't steal any bases, which kind of just, I mean, yeah, if I wanted like a power hitting second baseman, give me Nolan Gorman 20 rounds later, where you're taking Ketel Marte. People love this kid. Love him, kid. 31 years old. So, yeah. All right. I'll give you my fails to match the hype also. I'll go with Willy Adames. I am not a Willy Adames guy. One of the things that everybody talked about when Willy Adames went from Tampa to Milwaukee, what was the one thing that Willy Adames kept saying over and over again? He loves the batter's eye in Miller Park. Well, then it was Miller Park. I don't know what it's called anymore. I'm not giving any corporate love or money to, whoever it is that owns that now. But it used to be Miller Park. And he said that he loved the batter's eye, saw the ball so well, was absolutely phenomenal against right-handed pitching at home, to the point where we were like locking him in. If he was facing a righty in DF, for the day in DFS, we would put Willy Adames and lock him in there as our guy. I saw somebody in an FSGA take him with like the 14th pick in a 14 rounder. That made no sense to me. I can't get behind that. So I think Willy Adames fails to match the hype in San Francisco. It's a pitcher's park. The weather is also going to be problematic because what people don't realize is that when you're there on the bay, it's cold. It's there's some wind. It's damp air, and not like the good kind where it's like super humidity. The ball drops, like it just goes into the air and just boom, thud. So I think that's going to happen to Willy Adames. I'll give you my cheap source of home runs because I did Michael Harris too for 300 for the first time. Copycats. My cheap source of home runs, because this guy is probably sitting on your waiver wire right now. Don't sleep on Paul DeJong. Don't sleep on him. He's not the be-all, end-all. He's going to give you a 240 batting average. But you know what? The average batting average in Major League Baseball last year was 240. It's like 246 or 240.6 is what it was, I think. So I'm not worried about that. This dude is going to he's locked in. He's playing third base for the Washington Nationals. He's a power hitting guy. He's going to hit in a good RBI slot. He's going to see some tough pitching in the East, but he's also going to see some bad pitching in the East. And I think that there's just no pressure on this guy at all. Has shortstop and third base eligibility. So I think he's just a good, cheap source of home run power here, Colby.
Yep. And when he lofts the ball, he tends to pull it. And that's typically good for power production. So, I mean, we've seen it. And when he's gotten regular run, he's going to be a guy that hits home runs. That's about all he's going to do for you. But all the little thing that you had there said was cheap source of home runs, not cheap source of home runs with X, Y, and Z. He can give you some home runs. And honestly, Washington's going to play him because who else do they have?
They don't have anybody. They
and
don't.
It's bats are at bats.
the farm system on that organization is just terrible. Terrible. So check out the bold predictions over there at fantasyalarm.com. We've got them right there. Just click on the MLB homepage and you'll see it right there. Bobby Witt Jr. is on the cover. We're also getting excited about some rookies. Do you watch those videos as they post them, where they like tell a guy, if you want to talk about like Cam Smith, did you see that video of Cam Smith being told by Joe Espada and Cam Smith's mom? Like, nice little tear jerker there, tugs at the heartstrings.
Yeah, and it's one of those two where it's like I guess there was a world where he wasn't going to break camp with the team. So it's not like it was the video we got where Paul Skeens was told he was going to be the opening day starter and the biggest no duh moment ever. Like, it was cool to have oh wow, the coach is in there talking to Paul Skeens. I wonder what he's going to talk about. Hey, Paul, you're going fifth. Like, you're going to pitch after Andrew Heaney. We really want to make your fastball look 106 instead of 102. So it was really cool for that moment. And it was one of those where I saw the first part of it and I was like, I'll be damned. He's going to make camp. He's going to break camp with the team. It's him. And it was a nice moment. I like the videos like that, where it's there was a chance that he wasn't going to make it or he was going to start the year in the minors. So I like seeing stuff like that. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I watched that, and then I watched another interview that he gave right after that moment. His face is just covered in teardrops, and he's sitting there. He like breaks down in the middle of the interview. He's just like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Right? I'm like, oh man, look at this kid. I'm definitely in on Cam Smith for the year here. I'm going to list you the rookies who apparently have all made this, made their opening roster. You tell me, are you in or are you out for fantasy purposes, Colby? I'll throw you some softballs to start. Dylan Cruz.
Be weird for me to say no after the bold predictions article. So all the way in.
Cam Smith.
Yes. In.
Roki Sasaki.
A little less than I was a couple weeks ago, but still
in. The command issues bothering you?
Well, he had a bad start, so I have to not like him. His whole season's gonna be bad. He's gonna have a 12.7 walk per 9. Yeah. So yeah, it's tough go to make your whole season off one start.
It's easy to say Jason Dominguez. You've got him picked as your AL Rookie of the Year. How about Christian Campbell? Wins that job over in Boston. Rafi Devers moves over to the DH spot full-time. Alex Bregman going to play the hot corner. They're giving everything here. Keys to the kingdom to Christian Campbell.
Yep, they're going to give him some run. I would say I don't have him on many teams. AL only are definitely going to be in, and I think deeper mixed you can take a shot on him, but I don't really have much exposure to him, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of exposure to him either. Actually, I don't even think I have him anywhere, so maybe not. You already said that you're out on Matt Shaw because he didn't do well in the Japan series, so I know your answer to that. How about Milwaukee third baseman Oliver Dunn?
Don't have much of him either. I'd like the park for hitters. And when you look at it here, the thing with Milwaukee that is going to give me a little pause with Dunn is that while he is probably going to play on the large side of platoon, they just have so many bodies around that it's going to get a little bit interesting. So maybe deeper formats, but he's probably more of a name that I'd probably keep an eye out in DFS purposes than season long.
Yeah, DFS purposes. And you know what? I keep an eye on him also because he actually does I believe he also qualifies at second base. So I would kind of look to him maybe as like a waiver wire pick. And we'll give some waiver wire options here also for the first week. But I'm with you there on Dunn. How about this? Congratulations, Jacob Wilson, shortstop for the Athletics. It ain't a great organization, but Jacob Wilson looks like he's going to be their starting shortstop on opening day.
This is probably of the guys we're going to get to. Here's probably the one I'm more excited about. I'm not buying the spring power. I don't think this is his type of power production, but he is a guy that I can hit for a half decent average, playing middle infield. He'll run into a ball here and there and get you a half decent number of home runs. I don't know, maybe like 10 to 12, nothing too crazy. Don't buy this 4 or 5 home run pop that he showed in spring in a handful of at bats, but I do like the offensive makeup. Hopefully the counting stats are there, but he's one I'm definitely interested in.
He did show some decent power, some good isolated power numbers there in the minor leagues last year in both AA and AAA. You're talking about an isolated power mark over 200. Just something to kind of think about there. And then, I just kind of taking a look at him, right? 236 ISO last year between 3 levels. Yeah, 3 levels, high A, AA, and AAA. But Colby's not buying it. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think what it's going to get to is because of what he's done this spring, everyone's going to think like this is the type of power production. I just don't think he sustains it. Yeah. But 10 to 12 maybe flirts with the low teens. He's not a 20 home run guy. I'm firmly in that belief. I'll give you a ceiling of 15.
This is the type of guy who he goes out there and he pops like 6 home runs in April, and then you trade him.
Yeah.
And then he hits 6 home runs the entire rest of the way.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Trey Sweeney. Any love for Trey Sweeney in Detroit? He's apparently going to be their starting shortstop. I don't have any love for him, but maybe you've got a differing opinion.
AL only. I think you're okay with a guy like him. He's shown a little bit of speed or power speed in the minors, but I don't love mid-20 strikeout rates at the minor league level. Never particularly hit for all that great of an average when he had some extended stops. So, yeah, I could see him playing on the larger side of a platoon. Probably more of a DFS guy if you're going to look there, but not much love for Sweeney for me.
All right. Connor Norby's actually on the IL right now with the oblique injury. That kind of takes me – I was never really bullish on Connor Norby to begin with. I think that he's got some talent, but I think I think his development is still, like a year or two away. And playing for Miami is never a positive thing. So we can skip over him, but let's go to his teammate, who's one of our favorite Nepo babies here in baseball, right? Griffin Conine, son of Jeff, legendary player, right? Orioles, Marlins. Who doesn't love Jeff Conine? What about his boy Griffin? You interested at all?
If you want power, that's what he'll give you. And I am not confident in anything else. There's been no running in the minors. The average has been average at best. And don't even look at the strikeout rates. I'm legitimately worried about him. If he doesn't hit a home run, he's striking out.
Okay. All right. Will Wagner makes the roster for the Blue Jays, but he's a utility guy, so nothing to worry about there. Some pitchers. Here we go. Let's see what you like. There's Will Warren for the Yankees. There's Connor Gillespie from the Miami Marlins. Not to be confused with Connor Gillespie, the utility infielder who couldn't make anything of himself 7 years ago. But Will Warren, Connor Gillespie, Logan Henderson's actually going to get the start on Monday for the Milwaukee Brewers. So Jose Quintana is going to be in the minors, taking a couple more tune-up starts to get in there. Then you got the duo of kids for Texas, Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter. Both those guys are lighting it up here in spring training. Jack Leiter's having an amazing spring training. And then I just wanted to acknowledge Rob Johnson, relief pitcher for the Angels. He's one of three guys to have never played in the minor leagues in his entire year. He went right from the draft class to the major league roster. But between Warren, Gillespie, Henderson, Rocker, Leiter, any of these guys on your rosters?
We'll talk about Will Warren a little bit later. No thanks with Gillespie from Miami. Henderson's he could only be up for 2 or 3 turns. That could be it. And then we talked about the Texas guys a couple episodes back, and I think Rocker's fine. And if Leiter doesn't walk people, he can be easily the best of these 5. Of the 4. Nope, 5. Rob Johnson, 6. So if Leiter can harness the command, I really like him. In terms of fantasy appeal season long, Warren, Rocker, and Leiter stand heads and shoulders above the rest.
Head and shoulders above the rest, no doubt. I always have to give a little extra love to Jack Leiter. My wife used to play a lot of fantasy baseball back in the late 90s with everybody at the poker table, and she had a little bit of a crush on Al Leiter. So knowing that the genetics are there, just got to give a little shout out to Jack. So love that. Guys, check out over at fantasyalarm.com. Our new prospect guy is Aiden Gall. He's got a full set of rankings up there. He's got the rookie article in the Fantasy Alarm draft guide. He's going to be doing the prospect report for you every single week. So we're going to be giving you everything that you need to know. Sad to see Matt Sells stop writing, but I'm pretty confident in Aiden to pick up that baton and run with it there. It's going to be a lot of fun indeed. All right, before we start talking some waiver wire, because we are going to talk about some waiver wire, I always like to jump in with a little bit of MLB news. What's going on around MLB? There's definitely, there was a lot of housekeeping that went on Wednesday. A lot of guys on the IL, a lot of guys not on the IL, or not so much not on the IL, but guys who we thought were going to be injured, where all of a sudden now there's more optimism. And I'm even talking about Mookie Betts, because Dave Roberts didn't rule him out at all. I wouldn't play Mookie Betts for the life of me, at least for this weekend. But nevertheless, I think the big one that I like the most is seeing Spencer Steer not opening the season on the 10-day IL. I don't know if you have any shares of Steer, but I was doing drafts and he kept falling and falling. And if you're giving me a guy who qualifies at first base and in the outfield, who has 2020 upside, right? If you're giving that to me in the 16th, 17th round, that's a no-brainer for me. So I am super pumped up here about Spencer Steer. Looks like he's going to be starting the season. Maybe DHs early on, but he's on opening day, and that makes me smile.
And he's fortunate because it seemed like half of Cincinnati was placed on the injured list today as we're recording this coming into the season. I mean, the whole laundry list of guys have made it, but Steer did not go on. So yeah, even if he sits a couple of extra games, maybe that he wouldn't early on, he's out there. He can get you some stats, and he's coming off a 2020 year, and there's no reason to believe this year he couldn't go 2020 again with a better average than last year. So, and again, half his games, Great American Small Park, got some good offensive guys around him. So yeah, I don't have any shares of Steer, but I would be ecstatic that he is avoiding the IL to start the year, especially because the beginning of the year teams are extra cautious.
Yes.
Like they're willing to take the time now. So this is inherently Cincinnati saying it's actually not that bad, all things considered.
Right, which is great. And like you said, I mean, they put Austin Hayes on the IL, Tyler Stevenson, Alexis Diaz. These guys are all banged up, and the Reds are being kind of cautious there. So yeah, very comfortable seeing them, leaving Spencer Steer out there. Position battle that we didn't really talk much about, in the past, but with Jose Altuve moving off of second base in Houston, he's now going to be their starting. Is it their right fielder or their left field? It doesn't matter. He's one of the corner outfield spots for Jose Altuve. It left second base kind of open. You've got Brendan Rodgers, who was announced today that he made the team, but then you also have Mauricio Dubon. Now, I kind of like Dubon. I love the position flexibility. I grabbed him in a best ball draft that I did just because he qualifies everywhere, and I figured he was going to see some good starting there. Do you have any interest in Brendan Rodgers if he is the starting second baseman for Houston?
He's always been very good against lefties for his career, so he could find himself on like a small side of a platoon, but it's a good lineup to be invested in. The problem with Rodgers is even dating back to Colorado, like he had some seasons where it was all right, like back in 2021, 15 homers in 102 games, then he hit 13 in each of 2022 and 2024. He just doesn't run. He just doesn't run. And second base is like the worst position for fantasy. And if I'm just getting a guy he doesn't run, he'll hit for a slightly above average if he is in a regular role, and he's going to put a mediocre home run total. The runs won't be great because he's going to hit in the bottom third of the lineup. So I don't really care for the second base spot in Houston, to be honest. I think these two are going to steal at bats from each other, and Rodgers doesn't do any one thing well enough to warrant a spot. He's kind of like a real I hate to say a poor man's jack of all trades, because he doesn't really do anything well, except he doesn't run. So he doesn't even have like that where he does to that. So Rodgers is just a kind of a boring fantasy asset, to be honest.
And it's a kind of a troubling fantasy asset as well. How about this? He doesn't hit outside of Coors Field. Well, last year, he batted .214 on the road. For his career, he's a .221 hitter on the road. He had a .274 WOBA, on the road last year. That's terrible. And you could say that, well, there's certain parts of, Minute Maid Park that makes sense for him, but no, it really doesn't. Like, here's a guy who just could not, remember like Carlos Gonzalez. How much did we love Carlos Gonzalez? But that dude could not hit the ball for crap outside of Coors Field. And I think that's a huge issue.
Also, who's to say that a month into the season, Houston is sick of seeing Altuve drop balls in left field?
Ooh, yes.
At what point does Arrighetti and some of those other starters go, skip? What are we doing here?
No confidence in poor little Jose Altuve to shag some fly balls?
I mean, I know it's early, but has he given us reason to?
I don't think so. I don't know. I honestly have not watched him all that closely for that. And I'll tell you what, man, it's like if they were to move him back to second base, and obviously it's probably better for his hitting, right? Because now if he's struggling out in the outfield, then that's like in the back of his mind, even when he's up at bat. That's problematic.
But every fantasy manager who drafted Altuve is saying, just be mediocre for 10 games. Then you can suck all you want, get your outfield eligibility, and then go back home to second base. That's all, or depending whatever your league is. I know like Yahoo, if you like sneeze and it lands in the outfield or at a different position, you get that eligibility. And then other sites, you got to play 20 games. So whatever your league, if you drafted Altuve, whatever your league's minimum is, let him get that and then pray he gets back to second base full time.
Couple of other moves around there. Well, I mean, let's talk about there are a couple of bullpen situations. Well, first and foremost, before I get to the bullpen, Tim Anderson is now the starting second baseman for the Angels. Don't bother. Evan Carter demoted by the Rangers. Keep him on a watch list, but if you're in a redraft league right now that has, just even like a mid-sized bench, Evan Carter, I don't know when he comes up, man. Boy, that guy just struggled all through the spring, had a terrible second half last year. It's really disappointing because there are a lot of people out there who are like, Evan Carter's better than Wyatt Langford.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the case.
Nope.
Not the case at all. Bullpens. I don't know how you feel about bullpens. Tigers option Jason Foley. Now they're saying Bo Breesky is going to be getting some saves. Tyler Holton's going to be getting some saves. Right? Did you snag Tyler Holton from me in a league, or that was Sells?
I did that in a mock draft.
Yeah, you guys, you caught stealing guys all look alike.
Yep, I get it.
No, here you go. I'll tell you what. I'll be Sells in this one here. Let me tilt my glasses a little bit. I'm always like, every time I was doing shows with Sells, I'm like, dude, can you see me? Because your glasses are all messed up.
He's a Nationals fan.
Yeah, so. Well, so you're not supposed to see straight properly anyway. He's a Nats fan. But let's talk bullpens for a second here. So Tigers option out Jason Foley. So that's a mess over there. You got Bruce Bochy, who's talking about Luke Jackson being in the mix for saves now with Chris Martin, as well as I think, was it Ramon Garcia? Was a third option over there. So those bullpens, and then let's just throw in the Reds bullpen there with Alexis Diaz on the IL, because that's a hot mess too. Scott Barlow, Emilio Pagan, Graham Ashcraft was like, hey, I want to close. I'm better than you guys. When you're looking at some closer situations here, if you're chasing saves, anybody interest you?
I like Holton from Detroit. I know I drafted him a bunch, and he's probably the one I'm going for. Cincinnati, I have no clue, because the thing I know, or I think I know, I guess, about Cincy is once Diaz returns, it's his. He's going to get the majority of it. I would probably lean Pagan in Cincinnati, but I'm looking at roster resource right now, and they have 8 people in the bullpen, 5 of which have CL in front of their name for closer. So, I mean, that's just the whole bullpen. Everyone's going to close.
Way to narrow it down for us, guys.
Yeah. I mean, I see it on X, like Ashcraft is kind of circling around because his stuff could probably play better as like potentially just like a 1-inning guy, but Pagan's got closing experience, so I think they would probably lean to him. I think of those names, Holton is the one I probably feel best about. Bo Breesky is a guy that I would always stack against in DFS, so it'd be weird for me to kind of give him the
suddenly
vote
be
of
in
confidence.
on him.
Yeah, like I'm sure you can find many times, or like a year or two ago when I did some of those MLB live shows, like, oh, Bo's on the mound, give me the other team, whoever it was. So yeah, I mean, these save situations are bad. Hopefully you've avoided some of the injury at the closer. You have some guys that you like, but I think Holton's the most intriguing, and maybe Emilio Pagan for me.
I'm kind of pulling for Ashcraft. I'm not gonna lie. NL Labor. I took Ashcraft as like just a reserve pick. I knew that Andrew Abbott was going to start the season on the IL, and maybe Ashcraft was going to get a start or two. And then all of a sudden, it was like after that labor auction was when all of a sudden Ashcraft was, they were talking about him going to the bullpen and him saying that he wanted to close. So fingers crossed on that one for me, because yes, I also have Alexis Diaz in that league. So it would have just been it would have been the ideal handcuff, right? The ideal handcuff prognostication was Graham Ashcraft. That's not working for me, though. That's not working for me. Chasing saves, not a fun thing. Joe Galina's got that full closer grid already updated. It's over there at Fantasy Alarm. You can't miss it at all. What we also have up there is a waiver wire article from James Grande, and that is loaded with players it's not only got is it loaded with players, but then there's also fab bidding suggestions as well. So it's all, organized by position, talks about ownership percentages, things like that, because obviously your 15-team league waiver wire is going to look a lot different than your 10-team league waiver wire. But let's throw down a couple of players here, Colby. Some early waiver wire thoughts, as we get ready for opening day to kick off, or first pitch, however you want to call it. What do you got?
Yeah, I mentioned the guy earlier, say we come back to him, so I want to make sure I stay true to my word. But if Will Warren pitches well, I don't think the Yankees have a reason to move him out of the rotation. They need all the help they can get to eat up some innings. He's going to make his first go. It looks like, if I remember correctly, he's going to draw Arizona for his first start of the season, and it's a fine offense, but I think Will Warren can do pretty well. He's shown some pretty good strikeout numbers in the minors. The walk rate has been relatively tame, and half decent ground ball rate for the most part, usually up over 50%. So we talked about it a couple episodes back. I love the ground ball strikeout archetype on the mound, and Will Warren could be something like that. He needs to pitch well, because once Clark Schmidt comes back, that could be the potential impetus to remove him from the rotation. But if not, if Warren pitches well, the Yankees are going to keep him in the rotation, and I think he can be a nice pick over the course of the season. So Will Warren's the first one I'm looking at.
I'm going to have to, it's kind of funny. I'm going to have to go heavy on looking for Will Warren in the Tout Wars saves plus holds league that they do. Ready for this one here? Garrett Cole, Shane McClanahan, Andrew Abbott. I knew Abbott. I knew I was getting an IR guy there. That was totally fine. But why do I see a red flag? Oh, Sonny Gray has an illness there. But Garrett Cole and Shane McClanahan, man, I got to replace both of these knuckleheads. I'm going to have to give up all my fab. All my fab.
And that's the beauty of fantasy baseball, and we're not even a day in yet.
It's no fun. It's no fun. All right, Will Warren, who else you got?
Yep, let's stick on the mound, stay in the AL East, actually, but Cade Povich is getting that number 5 spot in the Orioles rotation with kind of some of the injuries that they have. I don't love his opening start coming up against Boston. They have some guys that can hit lefties pretty well, but much like Warren, Povich has had some pretty good strikeout numbers in the minors. Ground ball rate's not quite as impressive as Will Warren, but Baltimore's Park plays a little bit friendlier for pitching. So I think Povich can be good. Don't look at his 5.2 ERA.
Oh, it's so ugly.
And don't look at the 3.9 or his 3-9 record. But last year, the strikeout rate dipped in the majors, which I do think that'll bounce back a little bit. But a lot of the numbers under the hood, xERA, FIP, xFIP, were far better than his ERA indicates. So I think Povich is going to get a bad rap from last year, but he could be a guy that settles in with a low 4s ERA and push about a strikeout per inning over the course of the year, if he can stick in the rotation.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I definitely don't mind that. All right, Povich, very, very cool. I would look at him, kind of. Anybody else?
Well, it won't help you on the mound, and this is kind of cherry picking a little bit here, but if you need some speed, Victor Scott is going to be the regular center field for St. Louis. His ADP flew up once they basically said that. He's been Cody Bellinger-esque hot here in spring with his home runs, stolen bases, and of course, everyone's going to look back at 2023 across a couple of different levels, 94 stolen bases in 132 games. They're going to let him run. He just has to hit. When he got his first taste of major league pitching, his strikeout rate nearly doubled from where it was in the minors, and the walk rate, here's what happened. Walk rate, strikeout rate. That is not the way we want to go with those metrics. Hopefully he's a little bit better, but the kid's still only 24 and one of the fastest dudes around. So if you need speed, Victor Scott's your guy.
Yeah, Victor Scott has, the speed is amazing. It really is. I want to see them bat him 9th, right? Because they're not going to lead him off because he's just not ready for that yet. So just something to kind of take a look at for there. But yeah, the speed is just, it's real deal. It's next level speed. It really is next level speed. So I like that. I'll throw a couple of names out at you. Now, I talked about Jacob Wilson already. I agree with you. I don't think that the power that he's showing here this spring is really what we want or what we can expect. I do like, though, that he is seeing the ball well. I do like the fact that he is coming out of spring training with the starting job, and He's got, just a little bit of momentum on his side. It becomes a great sell high candidate. It always becomes a great sell high candidate. So I definitely like looking at him. I mentioned Luke Jackson, especially if you're chasing saves. I don't particularly care for Chris Martin. I don't think he's a very good reliever. So I think Jackson could end up getting the bulk of that work. And, again, if you're missing players, if you're losing guys, there's nothing wrong with taking a reliever, at least for this initial run, because, a lot of things that you're looking at the waiver wire, there aren't a ton of hey, this guy's a starter who is, available that you feel very confident in. So if that's the case, take a reliever, get somebody who might be in the mix for saves. Maybe he gets you a couple extra strikeouts. If he can get you 4 or 5 innings during the course of a week's time, and he can strike out 1 or 2 guys per inning, per appearance, as long as he doesn't just get completely decimated and they leave him in for like a 7-run 9th inning, I think it works. I definitely think it works. And then last guy I want to give there is because he hasn't been getting a lot of love, mostly because he was dealing with a gastrointestinal issue throughout spring training, and he didn't start playing in any kind of games until very, very late. He's also happens to be the placeholder in right field for when Roman Anthony does come up. But if you're moving guys in and out, Willy Abreu got a little bit of pop, got a little bit of speed, hits for a decent average, has good on-base work. Willy Abreu, I think, is a guy who, if you just need a patch job, right? If you got a guy who's going to be out for, 2 weeks, I think that's a decent patch job.
Especially if it's a week heavy where they're facing right-handed pitching. I think you'll be in a good spot there. One other one I'll throw at you. I know you had talked about him. I think it was in a short or something on YouTube. Check that out on Fantasy Alarm. But Hayden Birdsong not winning a rotation spot, I'm honestly not that worried. I don't think Landon Rupp isn't very good. However the heck I don't care enough. I don't care about him enough to know his last name. Look at the numbers. There is not a breadth of work there. It's nothing that I think is going to keep Birdsong out. So you can actually use this if you haven't already picked up Birdsong, or if you have Fab that's running, probably get him for a couple bucks cheaper because no one's going to want him because he's not in the starting rotation and all this stuff. It's not going to be long till he's in there, and the talent is still there. For all the reasons you liked him on March 22nd should be the exact same reasons why you like him March 27th. All that changed is that he's technically not a starter. Give it 2 weeks. He'll be in the rotation, and he's going to do everything we were said he was going to.
Sound advice from Colby Conway. All right. Well, listen, I'm all amped up, man. I got a lot of stuff to do before opening day hits. So I'm going to say that I think we should call it a day here, Colby. I think we've covered everything from rookies to waiver wire to bold predictions for the season. Before we get on out of here, Colby, you got some words of wisdom for people to enjoy opening day with here?
I would say to enjoy opening day, and if your employer doesn't let you watch games during the day, I would strongly consider priorities for the upcoming season ahead.
No doubt. You know what? You can hit me up at RotoBuzzGuy. You can hit him up at Colby R. Conway. Maybe we'll write you a note, right? Please excuse so-and-so because it's opening day. But that's going to do it for us here. Again, check out everything we've got over at fantasyalarm.com, including the recipe for Colby's weird green drink that he's been chugging this entire episode. Ugh. But that's it for this week's episode of Caught Stealing. Enjoy opening day, everybody. For Colby Conway, I'm Howard Bender. This has been the Caught Stealing Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.